Today we're going to be making a graduated dangle necklace that really shows you how to bring the colors of autumn into your designs. I love to use long and short beads for this necklace to kind of give it that graduated look. So when picking your beads, maybe choose some that are longer and then some that are similar colored but smaller. I love using copper for this design because it just looks beautiful, and if you're using bare copper, it's going to age well and just look really, really like fall. Let's go over the tools and supplies we're going to need for this project. We're going to need a rose tone or copper tone chain, 22 gauge copper wire. I'm going to use pearls, and you can see I'm going to use these longer rice-shaped pearls and then some smaller round pearls, a chasing hammer and bench block, chain nose pliers, round nose pliers. I always like to have 2 flat nose pliers, and then a flush cutter. The basis of this necklace is going to be a very repetitive shape. Basically, it's a fancy head pin with a little wrap. So I'm going to show you how to make it a few times, and then you can decide how many dangles or head pin wraps you want to do. My necklace here has 13 different head pin dangles, but I'm going to show you just how to do one with about 6 if you want to just do a miniature version of that. So it's totally up to you. And first you're going to need your 22 gauge wire and your beads. Make sure your beads will fit onto it. And your flush cutter and your flat nose plier. So I like to cut about 5 inches per head pin. And you're going to be making a triangular shape. So I usually use my flat nose plier, but if you have a triangle mandrel, you can do that too. And I just like it to be really big, so I actually use the part of the plier that's inside of it. I don't actually use this part of the plier. I go all the way in just to make it a little bit wider of a base, you'll see, and bend both sides up and take your plier out. So now you have a little rectangular bend, and with your hands you can kind of just squeeze them together like that to make a little triangle. And then I like to make a little crook on where they cross, just right here, so I can have a place to wrap the coil around. And then I grab the triangle with my plier and I make a little coil in that crook. Wrap it a few times and then trim it off. And if you want, you can tuck that little end down. So that is going to be the bottom of our piece. And now I'm going to slide on one of these pearls here. And do the wrap on the top. And they almost look like little leaves or little petals. If you want, you can do a more floral design or like a fall leaf design. It's totally up to you. Grab your round nose plier, hold just above the pearl, and we're going to do a basic wire loop that attaches it to our chain. So push it away from you and then readjust your plier just behind that bend and hold the bottom of your piece and roll that back around. Then bring that tail down and to the left, and you have a loop started. This is just a basic wire loop. And I usually will go to my necklace, my chain, and start somewhere in the center and go ahead and start attaching these straight to the piece. Just loop it on where you want. And then I grab my round nose plier, hold that loop, and then make my coil. And this is where you can do this part or you don't have to. I like to go wrap it twice and then cross over the pearl all the way down and make a small coil underneath, so that it gives it almost like an extra little oomph right there. It's totally up to you. Trim that off. And another thing I like to do with this design is hammer the very bottom edge of this head pin, if you want to call it that, with my chasing hammer and bench block. And just the bottom edge. So now it gives it that really pretty texture and reflectiveness. And that's basically the form that we're gonna make, so you can make it as many times as you want. It also looks pretty just by itself. Let's make this component one more time, but with one of my longer rice pearls. And I just want to emphasize how easy this is. Basically, once you can master this one component, you just do it over and over, and it gets easier and easier. I'm gonna cut my wire and then make my little triangle. Grab your flat nose pliers. And yeah, I like to work in the largest part of the plier just to get a wide base for my triangle. And then just carefully bend those in. And then I'm going to make a little crook right where they meet, and then make my coil. Push it down a little bit. And then trim that off. And tuck that tail in. Also, if you want, at this point, you can do your hammering if you prefer, while you have some distance from it. And then slide on your pearl. And now we're going to do our basic loop again with our round nose plier. And just grab it right on top of that pearl, about 1/4 of an inch into your plier, and push it 90 degrees away from you with your finger. Hold the bottom and readjust your plier right here beyond the bend, and roll your wrist so the wire points towards you, and then bring that down to the left. And you have a loop, and then you'll go to your chain. And you want to use cable chain for this design. It really helps make it easy to know where to put your next dangle. And I'm going to put the next dangle, I'm going to skip 1 here. Technically I'm skipping 3, but I'm skipping 1 that's facing at me, and I'm going to go here. If you have a chainstay at home, that would be helpful for this design too. So you could clip your chain across and not have to pick it up and put it down a lot. Okay, so now I have that attached. And I know that this is going to be the back side, whatever's facing me, because I don't see my fancy wrap on my pearl here. So keep that in mind while you're wrapping down this coil here. Wrap here, go down across the pearl, and then make a couple more down here. And with my finger, I'm just going to push that wrap to the front. With the bare copper wire, you really can manipulate it a lot, which is nice. And if you do forget and wrap it fancy on the wrong side, you can always just use your finger to kind of push it over. So let me lay this down for you. So that is just 2 of the dangles, and you can see, I'm going to bring this necklace down so you can see the impact of multiples. Here you can see the small and the long beads alternating and the effect that that gives. It really does make the necklace. Here's another example where I just used all different shapes. Still very elongated, but there is a slight variation in height here, but you can use really any beads that you like. And I'll show you my favorite one. I'll just lay it down because I can't help it. This is my favorite one. This is the first one I ever made. And you can really see the long-short alternation in this. So it's up to you what kind of beads you want to use. I'm going to finish up this pearl one. And that's all there is to it. Let's go back over the tools and supplies we used for this project. We used 22 gauge bare copper wire. We had our bench block and dome chasing hammer, round nose plier, 2 flat nose pliers, chain nose plier, and flush cutter. We had a finished chain in rose tone, and then we had our pearls in the long and the short size. If you need to pick up any of the tools or supplies we used today, check out the links in the description below. What colors would you use in your autumn color necklace? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. So now that you know how to make an autumn color necklace, you can say, I made this.